up. Lotion slimes. When in danger, their bodies secrete a viscous lubricating fluid. Though it feels rather nice on the skin, still a failure. I wonder what he was trying to create.
Yeah, doesn't seem like he was good at this.
It was your run-of-the-mill throat goat, until God struck him with lightning. He told him that it was an accident, but in reality he was envious of all the baddies he would attract. Because of this, he threw him into a new world, leaving him with just his phone to hopefully impress the ladies. The story begins with the god of the world apologizing to our protagonist, Tuya, for making him a broke peasant in his last life. He informs him that because he was such a loser, he will reincarnate him into a new world with whatever skills he wants. The god tells him that he is sorry, but Tuya is ecstatic to see what this new world holds. Before he departs, he asks the god to allow him to use his smartphone in hopes of being able to use Tinder in this new world. The god quickly assures him to pick something else. No one else having a phone in the new world, but rather it's a world of magic. With him having no magic himself, he will bestow upon him some new powers to hopefully give him a jump start to his new life. Just like that, Tuya gets reincarnated into the new world with all his previous belongings intact. To start, he decides to walk to town, but he is interrupted when God gives him a call. He tells Tuya that he has updated his phone to be able to use maps in this world. With the city close by, he should have no trouble making it to town. Once he starts walking, he stares at his phone like a true Gen Z, but he gets stopped by some fat merchant. He runs to Tuya's side and tells him he has a kink for young men's clothing. Because of this, he wants to buy Tuya's clothing, offering whatever he wants in exchange for them. Reluctant Tuya follows, but ends up getting to town and entering the man's shop. Here he presents him with a new jacket, but once he sees his t-shirt, he asks him to let him buy it as well. Tuya sees this as pretty creepy, but knows he needs money, so he sells them away. After this, he asks the merchant for the closest inn, to hopefully find a place to stay for the night. As he walks, he overhears some girls demanding more money for their piece of junk. The thugs buying it from them, however, try to lowball the girls, making them enraged. With their price not being reasonable, they tell the thugs to give it back, but they refuse. Once this happens, Tuya decides to step in, asking the girls to sell it to him at their price. They agree, so he breaks the piece of junk with a rock, showing he means business. The thugs then charge him, but thanks to the god's blessing, he is easily able to avoid and counterattack. Now, with the thugs taken out, he offers the gold coin he got from selling his clothes, hoping to get in good with the girls. They take his hand out and introduce themselves as Elsa and Lindsay, twin sisters. Once he introduces himself, they realize his name is strange, so they ask where he came from. With Tuya being from another world, he dodges the question and instead asks them if they know where the closest inn is. Apparently the girls are staying at the same inn, so they all head over together. Before we continue, let's take a moment to answer the question of the day. What would you bring into a new world if you could only pick one thing from your previous life? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out in the next video. Now, back to the recap. Once he arrives, he starts flirting with the clerk, which makes the older sister, Elsa, a little ticked off. She guides Tuya away from her and starts explaining more about the rules of this world, treating Tuya like a child. They talk about the Adventurers Guild, so Tuya asks to ride along with them to become more acquainted with this world. Before the day of the raid comes, Tuya spends his night swiping on Tinder, hoping that he can find a match. He fails and heads to the Adventurers Guild the next day, but realizes he is missing something. With the language of this world being completely new, he has no clue which one to pick. The girls notice this and realize even good-looking fellows like Tuya can be stupid. Out of pity, the girls offer to take him along for one of their quests, but this makes Tuya realize he has nothing to fight with. Because of this, he goes and buys a katana along with a new guild card. With all of these items, he is ready to take on some monsters for the first time. Despite being a weak nobody in his last life, he is able to efficiently swing the sword and slice the wolves in half. Once they finish farming all the wolves, they head back to the guild to claim their reward. Here, the clerk takes the drops and gives him some chump change, making Tuya wonder what the point of doing such low-level missions is. Regardless, he continues following the girls in hopes of one day bagging one of them. As he talks with them, he starts to ask questions to hopefully learn more about the world. First, he asks to learn to read and write, explaining that he is illiterate. He then asks for them to teach him magic, making the girls wonder how they can do that. They question his aptitudes, explaining that everyone is given a certain aptitude at birth, limiting their magic. Tuya ignores them and urges them to get a move on, knowing that God surely blessed him up. Lince then pulls out some stones, informing Tuya that if he places his hand on one and chants the spell associated with it, he will be able to tell which aptitude he has. With most people only being limited to 3 attributes at the max, they explain to Tuya if he has more than 2, then he is surely blessed. He starts with the water one and makes a mess, so they move outside to try the others. With each stone comes a new type of magic, making the girls stunned that someone can wield all of the elements. Tuya then realizes that there is one more stone he has yet to try, so he asks about it. Lindsay explains that this is null magic, a type of magic that has specific spells that give access to various things. The only catch with this aptitude is each spell is limited to one person, meaning if you aren't given one at birth, then you have no null magic. Lindsay explains that one of these spells is something called Gate, a magic that lets you travel through space and time. Once Tuya hears this, he decides to try it out, using a magic that would previously be impossible for anyone to cast. With it functioning as a teleportation gate, Tuya now has access to fast travel. Because of this, the girls decide to leech off of him, knowing that someone with all aptitudes must be someone special. Following this, the clerk, Mika, approaches asking for help from the others. She introduces another girl, Il, to the group, and explains that she owns a cafe, but she gets no customers. Because of this, she thinks Tuya might have a new idea for something to eat at her cafe to get more customers. Tuya then offers to help her make ice cream, making the girls wonder what that even is. He whips out his phone and types up a recipe for it, explaining it is a magic item only he can use. Despite him having no clue what magic was a second ago, the girls don't question him having a magic item. With his phone, he draws out all the different steps to making the ice cream until he eventually completes it. This dish impresses the women, making more than just their mouths wet. After this happens, he journeys with the sisters to deliver a letter to the royal capital. On the way, Tuya takes some lewd pictures of the girls while they sleep. Once arriving, they talk about their next adventure, Tuya suggesting they tackle some slimes. The girls protest this, reminding him that if they encounter slime, lewd things will surely happen. Tuya gets sad but quickly cheers up once he gets interrupted by a scene within the town square. Upon seeing this, he goes to inspect where he finds a hot samurai girl arguing with a group of thugs. They demand she give them her lunch money, but she protests, knocking one to the group. As she continues to fight, her stomach starts to grumble, causing her to hesitate on her next move. This gives a thug a chance to strike, causing Tuya to step in and save her. The others then help him, and they all end up fighting against the thugs. After this happens, he runs off with the girl, hoping to add her to his soon-to-be harem. Once getting to a dodge alleyway, she introduces herself as Kokonoe, a samurai from the eastern continent, Ishin. Tuya introduces herself as well, making her think he is from Ishin as well, but he tells her he's from somewhere else. This makes the girls question him, previously claiming to be from Ishin. This suspicion is short-lived, however, when Kokono's stomach grumbles, causing her to ask for some food. Being the nice guy Tuya is, he takes her to a family restaurant and feeds her well. Here he asks more about what her plans are, only to learn that she is heading to the same place as him. Because of this, they invite her to join them on their journey, which she accepts. Now with another girl to pay for, Tuya wonders when his funds will be gone. Regardless, he continues to live a lavish lifestyle, taking the most exclusive wagon to the capital. On the way, Lince presents him with some old book, telling him there is tons of null magic stored within it. This interests Tuya, so he begins inspecting the book, looking for magic that could be useful. With the book only having a bunch of worthless skills, he wonders why she presented him with such a book. As he reads the book, he eventually finds a spell that allows him to summon anything within a certain radius. Upon learning this, he summons Kokono's ribbon to hopefully surprise her. After he uses this, the girls tell him that this power is endless, him being able to pickpocket people with ease. He thinks about this spell and wonders if he can take the girls' underwear, causing them to back up. He decides to put this plan on a halt for now and research some more magic. While reading, he finds a skill that expands his senses, thus alerting him that there is a battle up the road. They dash forward to hopefully intercept it, where they find some monsters fighting against some guards. The girls are somehow all more powerful than the royal guards, defeating all of the monsters with ease. With the monsters appearing rapidly, Tuya realizes that something must be going on to attract this many monsters. He looks around and finds some shady figure standing in the back, using his magic to summon the monsters. Tuya then decides to use his magic to restrain the man, thus ending the battle. He then talks with the guards until he overhears some girls screaming for help. He inspects the scene and finds a senile old man with an arrow in his chest, slowly passing away. The butler thinks this is the end, but thanks to Tuya and Lince's magic, they heal him with ease. By utilizing his magic, Tuya saved not only the butler, but also all of the guards. With this, they introduce themselves, revealing the young girl is the Duke's daughter, Elnia. This makes you wonder why she has such weak guards around her. The random girls Tuya met, being able to overpower the enemies. The girls then bow down, revealing that she is not only the Duke's daughter, but also the king's niece. Despite this title, she acts kind to them, asking them to treat her as any other girl he would encounter. On top of this, she asks Tuya if he could protect her for the rest of the journey. Seeing his strength firsthand, Tuya obviously accepts, and the two groups ride together, eventually reaching the royal castle. With it having a tall and mighty appearance, they are stunned to see such a magnificent building. They then follow Elnea around some more, hoping to receive some kind of reward for their efforts. By doing so, they arrive at the Duke's castle, where he thanks them for saving his daughter. Here he presents them with some tea and talks with Tuya alone, recognizing the other girls would just cause extra yapping. While he talks, Elnea emerges again, this time talking about another one of her issues. With her mother and the Duke's wife being ill, they spend every day wishing she could recover. Even with the best doctors in the kingdom, she has been unable to recover. The Duke explains that Elnea's mission was to find a doctor to heal her, but she was unable to do so. With the only possible cure being from null magic, they think there is no way for them to ever heal her. Tuya, on the other hand, is a jack of all trades, so he offers to help them himself. By using his copied magic, he heals the Duke's wife with a single spell, bringing her back to her usual self. Once the girls witness this, they embrace him, hoping to claim him for themselves, but it's too late with how many girls Tuya has already attracted. On top of this, the Duke presents Tuya with a large sum of money, giving him enough to ball out the girls for a few years. Tuya tries to play the nice guy and return the money, but the Duke sees through it, telling him he doesn't want to be indebted to him. He then presents a small token, informing the group that with this token, they can enter any town or city within the kingdom easily. Now, with their journey to the capital coming to a close, Tuya offers to have Kokonoe follow him some more. She accepts, telling Tuya she will devote everything she has to him. Now, with 3 girls following him around, Tuya walks through town more comfortably. While walking, he learns that humans aren't the only race. Demi-humans and beast people exist too. As he talks about this, he finds a cute cat girl, so he goes to spit some game on her. Upon talking to her, he learns that she is currently lost in town. Thankfully, she is speaking to Tuya, so he whips out his smartphone and somehow finds the location of her sister instantly. He brings her back to her and leaves, realizing no one else has phones, so he can't get her number. He ventures through town until he eventually finds a shop up to his means. Here he buys a robe to look cool in, explaining to the girls he felt like a bum previously. Not only is this robe cool looking, but it also raises his abilities. The girls compliment him on his new getup, but rather than taking advantage of the situation, Tuya runs away embarrassed. Upon arriving back to the original inn, he finds some middle-aged men wondering what to do with their lives. Tuya suggests he makes a game for them, so he takes a tree stump and turns it into a game. After he shows the rules and how to play, the middle-aged men decide to play the game all night, neglecting their wives at home. With them being dialed into the game, Tuya asks where his girls are, causing them to suddenly make an appearance. With a small bag in hand, the girls somehow whip out 4 large containers of ice cream. He decides to give this to the Duke's family in hopes of getting some handouts again. They become impressed by the ice cream, so Tuya suggests that he bring them some ice cream often. He then pulls out his shogi board, asking the Duke if he wants to try his luck against him. After a few games, the Duke starts to learn it, but continues to get destroyed by Tuya. Elnea sees this and asks to play, but she gets ignored, causing her to jump around impatiently. She then begins tickling Tuya, causing him to beg for mercy. He gets no such luck, and is instead forced to play against the Duke all night, until he gets tired of them. The following day, Tuya heads to the guild, where he tries to get the girls to embark on a slime quest again. They refuse, so Tuya presents a different quest, hoping one day he will get them to do a slime quest. With their combined powers, even the strongest of monsters is no match, including this knight. It gets slapped around by the girls, each using their magic in perfect sync with one another. Upon defeating the monster, Tuya scans around for treasure, but finds no such luck. He then tries to look for ancient relics, thinking they could hold some worth as well. This allows him to find some big turtle shell that overjoys the girls, thinking they found some kind of ancient treasure. To get to the treasure first, they need to head through a dark cave. With a couple of the girls being scared of the dark, they leech onto Tuya, hoping he will protect them. Eventually, they arrive at a door, keeping whatever is behind it locked up for good. Tuya then takes a picture of the wall, including the girls in a couple of the photos. After a while, he finds something related to earth magic, causing him to try and pour some magic into it. Once he does so, the door explodes, revealing the big shell he saw beforehand. They wonder what it is, so they bang on it, which causes it to suddenly emit a light. As time goes on, the light begins to get bigger, eventually turning into an insect monster. Although they would previously have died from its explosion thanks to Tuya's gate, he is able to escape. Once he does, the monster breaks free as well and starts rushing towards him. All of the girls try to use their magic to restrain it, but it absorbs it instead. On top of this, any physical attack is withstood, making the group wonder how they can possibly win. Tuya steps up and makes the monster slip, which allows the others to get in an attack and break its legs. Once this happens, it simply regenerates, giving it a chance to land a surprise attack on Elsa. Tuya realizes this isn't your run-of-the-mill monster, so he decides to step his game up. He uses his null magic to summon the monster's core in his hand. After doing this, he tosses it to Elsa, who destroys it with ease, causing the monster to cease moving. This puts them at ease, so they leave, deciding to inform the Duke of what happened. While talking with him, he presents a picture of the wall, causing the Duke to wonder what this all means. He informs him he is of no use, telling him he will see if he can find anything out about what happened. With this, he heads home to make some copies for the Duke, only to return the day later with the pictures. When he meets with the Duke, he is informed that the king has been poisoned, so he has to wait to look at the pictures. He decides to invite Tuya along for the ride, hoping he can treat him like he did with his wife. Upon arriving, they are greeted by a noble named Balsa, who oddly looks suspicious. The Duke treats him with hostility, revealing the two have some sort of beef. He then explains that the king was meeting with a diplomat until he was poisoned. This leads them to their original goal, healing the king. Tuya enters the room and uses the null spell recovery to heal the king, impressing all those around him. His magic succeeds, healing the king and allowing everyone to be put at ease. The king thanks Tuya while his daughter is seen blushing from his greatness. Following this, some of the others in the room approach Tuya, impressed by his actions. The dime introduces herself as Charlotte, the royal mage, and asks Tuya to see more of what he's capable of. Despite her advances, Tuya resists, moving on to the king's daughter to flirt with. As he talks with her, she suddenly asks him if she likes younger girls, but he is interrupted by the king. He asks the others who could have poisoned him, and it is revealed the Beast People's ambassador was behind it. They then go to meet with said person, where she introduces herself as Origa. She happens to be the older sister of the girl he helped, so he takes her side, suggesting she may not be behind it. With this, he heads to where the king was poisoned to use his magic. Upon doing so, he learns who was behind it all, asking for everyone to come back to the room. He includes Count Balsa to the list of attendees, who is still acting oddly suspicious. Now, with everyone gathered, he tells the group that there is an impostor among us. They question what he means. Living in a world without games, so Tuya explains. He tells everyone that the wine Orja brought wasn't poisoned, but rather something else. He decides to use a couple of people as examples, offering them various glasses with different wines. He then pours a glass of wine into the king's glass and offers it to Count Balsa. This makes him cower back, making everyone in the room wonder why he isn't drinking. Eventually, the count drinks the glass and starts acting up as if he was poisoned. Tuya tells him that there's no poison in it, asking him why he would act in such a way. This leads him to concluding that the wine wasn't poisoned, but rather the glass that held it. With Balsa freaking out from this, it confirms that he was behind this all. While this all happens, the king's daughter, Yumina, takes a keen interest in Tuya, recognizing all of his skills. Because of this, she decides that she is going to marry Tuya. With her being much younger than Tuya, he wonders if this is legal, but the parents don't seem to care. They act nonchalant about the ordeal, telling Yumina if she really wants to, then she can marry Tuya. This causes for a celebration, so the king tries to throw a party, but Tuya protests. He tells them he isn't ready for marriage yet, wanting to live a bit longer as a playboy. The king insists, however, telling Tuya if he isn't ready yet, then they can get engaged and marry a few years later. Once Yumina hears this, she gives Tuya puppy eyes, hoping he will change his mind. Because of this, Tuya folds and accepts telling the king that he will live like a player for the next year's first. Following this, he gets a call from God, congratulating him for getting yet another girl to his squad. He tells Tuya that he needs to be more active, polygyny being a normal thing in this world. The following day, Tuya heads back to his chicks where he shows off his new girlfriend. They get a bit jealous, but eventually accept her after realizing she is the kingdom's princess. With her being the princess, it means that once they get married, Tuya will be crowned the next king. After talking up a storm, they leave the inn and decide to embark on a new mission to raise their guild rank. Here, Yumina flexes her skills, summoning a few dogs to show she isn't someone to be messed with. These dogs attract all the nearby monsters, giving the party a chance to gain some easy experience. After defeating all the monsters, Tuya starts to realize that he should add some more dudes to his squad. He tells the girls that walking around with so many baddies is taxing on his brain. He calls them all cute, which gives the girls the little attention they need to continue forward. The following day, Tuya decides to try and get a familiar just like how Yumina has. He uses the spell and summons a white tiger, who reveals itself to be one of the 4 heavenly beasts. The beast tries to act powerful in front of Tuya, but once he places his hand on it to form the pact, it realizes Tuya isn't just any normal human. It falls from his presence, eventually causing Tuya to give it a name to form the pact. He thinks about what would be a good name and eventually decides on Kohaku. With this new name, Kohaku transforms into a smaller form to draw less attention. This does the opposite, however, bringing in all the girls to come cuddle him. Before we continue, let's take a moment to shout out the winner of the last video's top comment, Dion Showers TU 9GG. Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out in the next video. Let's get back to the recap. Now with Kohaku in the party, Tuya's time is taken up mostly by the tiger. The girls seem annoyed as well, feeling bad about this upcoming mission. It is finally being a slime mission. They talk about hating green slimes for its distinct ability to melt clothes. Tuya, on the other hand, seems very enthusiastic about defeating these slimes, hiding his true intentions. Yumina catches on to this, so she asks what his motive is. Eventually, after a little while, they arrive at a castle where the slimes are supposedly held up. Once he enters, one falls on his head, making him look like a fool. As time goes on, they arrive at a library that contains some sort of research around slimes. They decide to take this back with them, but as they try to exit, the fated green slimes await them. With them being known for melting clothes, Tuya tries his best to get the girls not to attack. He orders Kohaku to do a fake attack to hopefully raise the tension among the group. They head retreat upstairs only to find the slimes waiting around at the bottom. They wonder what it could be, but eventually find a slime emitting lotion that prevents them from moving up any farther. With it being super slippery, all of the girls fall down the stairs, ending up in the green slime pit. As expected, the slime begins melting through their clothes, so Tuya summons them back up where he can get a good look. He inspects them and is happy that his plan was able to work on them. Eventually, after peeking for a bit, they catch on, causing Tuya to provide them with some new clothes. With the girls covered in rags, Tuya wishes that they could encounter green slimes soon. The girls, on the other hand, have their eyes set on defeating all of the slimes to get rid of any change for them getting stripped again. As they continue, Tuya finds some statues with big breasts, so he goes over to touch them. With it being soft like a normal breast, he wonders what's going on, but after a minute, the slime drops to the ground. It is revealed to be something called a bust slime that attaches to those with not much going on up top. After she reads this, some of them rush Yumina, causing her to explain she is still growing. Upon exploring some more, they find a room with a skeleton in it. Next to him is a book that suddenly causes some slimes to emerge. They take the shape of all his girls, giving Tuya yet again some fan service to enjoy. The girls, however, become ticked off by this, so they burn down the entire castle. Tuya explains that the man behind this had a goal in mind of creating a harem that couldn't talk back to him. Later that week, Tuya explores the city looking for some girls to pick up, but he finds Kokonoe instead. She is seen talking to some peasant child who happened to lose their mother. Like last time, he whips out his phone and guides her to her mother. Upon doing so, he explains to Kokonoe that by combining multiple spells onto his smartphone map, he can scan for anything in the world. Once she hears this, she asks for him to search for her brother, explaining that she has been looking for him for some time. With her currently being Tuya's slave, she hasn't seen him in a while, so she'd like to see him. Tuya looks around on his phone and somehow learns that her brother is in a dojo fighting someone. This excites Kokono, so she talks about how cool her brother is. She explains that he is a lot like him, being cool and powerful in everything he does. After this happens, Tuya heads back home to play around with his smartphone again. He uses some X-ray magic on his phone and peeks on the other girls through the wall without them knowing. He takes a screenshot to save for later, but eventually turns his phone off embarrassingly. Linz then enters the room asking Tuya what he's up to, making him think he has been caught. She tells him, however, that she simply wants to find a new spell in some shop. They then acquire the spell and look over it, realizing that it has ancient text like the previous wall. Once Tuya hears this, he transforms some coins and a glass into glasses. He then enchants them to read anything, making us wonder why he said he couldn't read beforehand. After using these glasses, she learns the magic and decides to utilize it outside. Although she is enthusiastic to use it, she fails and ends up fainting from mana depletion. Tuya then decides to use another new type of magic, transferring more mana into her and giving her a restart. With this transfer of magic, she successfully uses the magic attack, unleashing a large bomb of water. He then heads back to the inn where he finds yet another one of the girls asking for his help. She tells him her Thanos gauntlet is broken, so she needs a new one. While they look for a new one, Tuya notices a dress behind a window, so he suggests that she tries it on. She protests at first, but eventually folds, putting on the dress to hopefully impress Tuya. He then buys it for her, causing her to go show it off to the other girls. They see this and ask Tuya to buy them fancy dresses as well, but are interrupted when Yumina gets a letter from the capital. He decides to follow her along for the ride, where he learns he will get offered knighthood. He had previously been offered a mansion, but he refused, however. With the increase in girls, he decides to take the king up on his offer. Now, with such a big house, Tuya offers to let the girls stay, but they protest, asking if it's all right being as it was a gift for Tuya and Lumina. Even despite this, Tuya doesn't care, telling the girls he would rather there be more people to do the dishes around here. This makes them all embarrassed and wanting to compete with one another. At the same time, Yumina joins in to do some chores, leaving Tuya to do his own thing. He decides to frolic in his garden until the girls approach him all together. They ask if it's all right to live with him, as if he was on equal terms as Yumina, to which he accepts. This gives them the impression they will one day be married to Tuya as well, but he doesn't know this. He then heads inside to meet his new slaves that the king sent over. With a couple cute maids and bulky-looking men, he has everything taken care of. On top of this, the king's personal butler decided to join in on the party and become Tuya's slave. With this all, the butler tells the others to get to work, wanting to make a good impression on Tuya. Once they finish cleaning up the house, the Duke and his daughter arrive, hoping to hang with Tuya. As they talk, the Duke eventually brings up the idea of Tuya marrying his daughter Sue as well. Tuya considers it, but knows she is way too young for him, so he declines. The Duke then moves on to the main matter at hand, telling Tuya they are having issues at their border, making it hard to travel. Because of this, he wants to employ Tuya to go to the neighboring nation to create a gate to teleport between. He accepts their request reluctantly when he meets with the people who are to guard him. With lots of beast people and royal guards, it seems like nothing could go wrong. Thanks to this, they enjoy their travels, leisurely playing games. Once it hits nightfall and they are eating, however, a group of bandits emerge. This causes Tuya to get on guard, so he scans the area, revealing there are 26 in total. He then tries to make use of this by using a paralysis skill on all the ambushers on the map. Now, with them all restrained, Talia wonders what to do next until he notices the ambassador and head guard flirting with each other. He wonders if the two know they like each other, it being obvious that they are in love. As they continue traveling, they take stops along the way, including one at a big market town. Tuya decides to ball out the girls while in this town, eventually finding Leon, the head guard, looking at jewelry. He realizes that he is surely shopping for Orja, so he asks Arma, the little sister of her, to pick something out. She gets something and then tells Lion that her sister would like something like this flower pendant. Tuya's wingmanning works, so he orders the gift, causing Yumina to become jealous. She tells him that she wants him to buy her things too, but as long as she has a ring on her finger, she will be all right. Once he gets back, he finds the other girls, so he heads back to the carriage. Before he enters the carriage, he notices someone watching them, so he gets on alert. As he looks around, he sees Orja wearing the hairpin that Lion was looking at earlier. They then re-embark on their journey. But as they travel, Tuya cheats. He uses his gate to go back and forth between his mansion until he is alerted by an enemy. With the dragon soaring overhead, all of the guards think this is their time to die. Tuya, on the other hand, decides to fight it himself, knowing if he lets off, then it will cause mayhem. He tries to track it down, but it's too late, the dragon already wreaking havoc among a nearby village. This causes Tuya to start fighting, knowing every second is another life being lost. To start, he baits it into an open field to more easily utilize his magic. Here the dragon roasts him, asking what he plans to do with his puny magic. Tuya shows that even puny magic can make a difference when it's spammed. He knocks the dragon down, which allows Linza to cut off its wings. Before he can finish it, it strikes back, but thanks to the other girl's efforts, it stays under fire. Tuya then rushes in to try and finish it with his sword, but he has no such luck, causing him to retreat. He regroups with the others, this time formulating a plan to hopefully finish off the dragon. By using his light magic onto a magnifying glass, he amplifies the firepower and blasts a hole through the dragon. Once he finishes it off, another emerges, this time in a more hospitable manner. It apologizes to Tuya and informs him he will do a better job at raising its kin from now on. In the aftermath of the battle, the girls wonder how Tuya can fight a dragon so easily, not showing any hints of fear.